Most of my memories about the diet and like what was happening when I was having seizures really come from what was happening like consistently, like things that we did to prevent seizures. Like at one point we had covered our floor with these little like puzzle piece things that are like foam to prevent my head from hitting the ground, which had happened. I still have like a scar in my eye. I had pretty early on, we got a helmet that I would wear pretty much all the time so that if I fell face forward, I wouldn't be hitting my head. And I remember the helmet, we still have it like in the house just sitting. I covered it with a lot of stickers to make it more personalized. And it started as like, I remember like hating it and not, because when you're in school, it's like embarrassing to like be the kid with the hat, the helmet. But over time, it kind of grew on me and it became like part of what I would do every day. So it became part of like my personality. It was like part of my life. So I came to like it.
He didn't like drinking the heavy cream, which I learned later on is part of, getting the fat in him and not just eating the protein. So we would have to give him a lot of heavy cream. He didn't like that. So with scrambled eggs, you could pour in cream, whip it all up, fry it in butter, and he melt some cheese on top. So it was really quite delicious, very fatty, and that was a dish he liked. And I also found a way, I don't even remember where I found this, maybe the Atkins group, is like fake French toast. So basically I had a little teeny frying pan and I'd whip up the eggs with cinnamon and heavy cream and vanilla as if you're making French toast, but no bread. And I fried it in a little teeny frying pan and it would come out looking like a piece of French toast. So he liked that with the sugar-free syrup. That was one of his favorites. So for going on trips, I had a cooler, a big cooler. Actually, they got bigger and bigger as I realized what I needed to bring, and it would take a lot of work. Like I would bring little containers of heavy cream. I had to find like the right bottles that wouldn't leak and fill it up with heavy cream and ice packs. And I don't know if you remember this, Brandon, but we go to Ocean City, which is a beach town here in New Jersey along the water, every summer. And so we'd go and I brought sugar-free. They sold snow cones on the boardwalk and he used to love snow cones. I don't know if you know what that is. It's just like, yeah, ice and syrup, basically. So I would bring different flavor syrups. So I just would buy everything sugar-free that I could find. And we would experiment at home. And I literally would walk down the boardwalk with him. And you don't remember this at all, right? He would say, "Oh, I want a snow cone." And I'd go and I'd buy the cup of ice from the guy. And I'm like, "Okay, I got it." And then I'd hide and I'd put the syrup right on top of it and give it to him. So anything to make a child feel like they're doing what everybody else is doing is a good thing. So that was one thing. And as he was coming off of keto and more towards Atkins, which is a little more tolerable, I think, because you don't have to weigh and measure every bite of food on the Atkins diet, it was good. We'd go out for pizza. So with the family, that was something he could do. And he knew he couldn't eat the bread, but he was able to eat all the cheese off. And with the toppings, he learned to like broccoli and eggplant. And so he would eat a lot of pizza cheese. And that, I think that made him feel almost normal. And so that was one thing. And so, yeah, going on vacations was just a lot of work, but it was worth it just to feel like a regular family and try to do the things that we would have normally done. So it was work for me, but I think it worked out for Brandon. I don't think he noticed too much. Because even with the heavy cream, you could make ice cream. So we had like rocket pops and I'd make different flavored ice creams that he would have, and he would eat the pizza. And then eventually we found the keto bread once he was like on a lower ratio, it was like Atkins friendly bread, I think that. So a slice of that. So he would have a regular sandwich, So yeah, basically any family that wants to go on vacation, they have to just do a lot of prep work. I bring it all. And even going through the airport, I remember we flew to Florida once and had all the heavy cream because I didn't want to take a chance on not having it. And I remember at the airport, the TSA guy was like, no, you have too many bottles. You can't bring this much. And I'm like, here's a letter from the neurologist and we're allowed to bring it. And, you know, you're allowed to bring baby formula and things. And he said, well, this is too much. You only need 3 bottles. And I said, really? And I like flipped out on him and I said, well, if the plane is delayed and we're stuck in the airport and he has a seizure on the plane and the plane has to land because of that, and I'm going to get your name. And I started writing his name down. He's like, no, take it all. But yeah, sometimes you just had to get a little feisty to get what you needed. And actually, our plane was delayed. I do remember that. We sat in Florida for several extra hours. So it's a good thing I had so my advice would be bring extra of everything that you think you're going to need. We would let him order usually most things that he would want, like a protein. So if it was a chicken sandwich, you know, had to be grilled chicken. And then we'd get rid of the bread, of course, because bread is the killer. And on the ketogenic diet, I'd have to weigh it, or I'd kind of, as the years went by, I would just like eyeball it. I wasn't so exact anymore. But in the beginning, it had to be weighed, everything to 1/10 of a gram. So yeah, I would let him order food off a menu, but not in the beginning. I mean, I think in the beginning of the diet, most people would probably not want to go out to a restaurant. But I have read about teenagers on the diet and what they try to do to be normal. You know, they'll drink diet soda because that's something you're allowed to have, or coffee or tea with artificial sweeteners or no sweeteners. And that's like a drink you can order.
There's not much of a silver lining, but one thing was whenever we would go, we did a family vacation to Hershey Park, like a roller coaster amusement park kind of thing,
like Disney World,
every year. And because I had seizures, waiting in line was not something I could do for hours at a time, because I could have a seizure, and having a seizure in the middle of a long line with hundreds of people is not a good situation. So I was able to get a free pass to skip all the lines, and that was one good thing, because that could apply to the rest of the family. So although most of the things that made me special at the time were a bit of a hindrance, that was one thing that made me very popular amongst the family, is I got to skip all the rides. I think it's important to talk to people. Talking to someone like me is one thing where, and my mom, of course, who was the one who really did everything. I didn't really do much of the cooking of the food, but I think talking to people is the best thing you can do, because when you look at the diet at face value and you look at what you have to do, it's so overwhelming to think about what you're being asked to do, all the work that you have to do, all the work that your kid will have to do. But I think talking to people who have done it in the past and seeing where they are now, such as myself, along with talking to people who are currently in the middle of it, who have been doing it for a week, a month, a year so far, and just hear their thoughts and advice, because hearing it from someone directly is always going to mean more than hearing your doctor say that it works. So I would say that's the big thing. Join the communities online, find people to talk to, and get advice from them.